Hi Alex, back again, preparing for another class today, which is going to be in about an hour and a half. Siemens Energy. Did a class. The last class I did with them was on the second. So if I look at the history section, I can see what I've done, what I did on the second. And what time was it? So it was a later class, wasn't it? So these are the beginning classes. So these words came up, for example, massive, wütend, okay, adipose, which is the German word for obese, okay, famine, yeah, okay, I don't have to go into any great detail in that actually. Talking about trends, yes, I think that was the job, isn't it? Yes, so what I did was I was looking at trends and numbers, yeah, which was kind of interesting. I have a nice in the learning website section here. I have, let's say, stats graphs, and then you have worldometer. As you can see, just under that section now. So that was some of these are some of the links which are good to have. So let's say explainer videos. Then from BBC, you get 5 things ants can teach us about management. You know, you can look at all these things if you want to by freezing and putting in anything that you want to link possibly to a future database of online links. Germany, okay, not as important for you, I'm guessing. English Hilfen and TV and TEFL sites. Some TEFL sites, there could be a lot more in there actually, but I tend to avoid TEFL, to be honest. I've always had a slight aversion to TEFL as a kind of discipline in itself, even though I've become a lot more accountable for keeping records on what I've done with classes in a very TEFL-y way, if you know what I mean. Okay, and interesting articles. Is brain rot real, for example? Branding dreams, that is fucking, I don't know, put you there. That's just like how companies actually have created advertising that impacts the way you dream. So, how by running, I don't know, something on Instagram that has a kind of dreamy kind of context at certain times of the night in some countries, how people will actually dream about having a Bud Light or something. Anyway, let's not get too wound up about how we're being fucking manipulated like simpletons. Okay, but back to that. So stats and stuff like that. So you can see like interesting iron population. That's not the one I wanted, does it? Like, okay, if you go to worldometer straight, then you can see, for example, data about the current world population, and I was getting them to describe those things in terms of numbers, stuff which they find interesting. So I'll probably mention that, I'll probably bring it up with them today, or even do that again properly. Yeah. Okay, that might be a good one to start with. Okay, but what I wanted to do today with them, because I found it kind of interesting myself, is this. So AI human relationships are real and come with risks. Now, I did think about not doing this because they're very technical people, and this is a little bit more psychology and stuff. But I was going to do it with them anyway, just to challenge them if nothing else. And what I'll do with this is copy and paste it and set it to their level. So most of the time, they should be good enough to understand stuff that's online. Their level is B1.2, but I found the automated assessment of the students to be a little bit high, so I'll put that A2 to B1, and I'll go into say ChatGPT and just say rewrite the following according to an A2, B1 level. And in addition, isolate the most common, isolate the more, let's say the top, let's go for 12. Why? I don't know. The top 12 most useful, no, not useful, most feasible to use in a business context. Business context. So in addition, I say the top 10 most feasible to use in a business context are words at that level, at, let's say I'll put it up a little high so that they're actually attaining to some B1, so at a B1, B2 level, provide fill in the gaps exercise and explanations for those words. Provide fill in the gaps exercises for and explanations applicable for Siemens engineers. That's just what they largely are, for Siemens engineers, and explanations applicable for Siemens. Provide fill in the gaps exercise and explanation for those words. Well, that's a bit of a kind of a word salad, to be honest. So I don't know. Could be a bit weird if I was going to do in addition. Okay. Isolate. Okay, what the fuck? Okay, I just pressed return. I wanted to actually. Okay, what you do? Please provide a text you'd like me to retype. Okay, that's the other problem. I have to get the text, don't I? Okay, I have them actually, haven't I? Okay, copy and paste that. Yeah. Okay. So, rewritten version at A2, B1 level. Okay, top 10 most useful B2, C1 business words. Each word simple definition. Why is useful as Siemens? Okay. I mean, it does go overboard, but I mean, it's kind of a nerd machine. Okay, so then by putting this, let me see, you have the beautiful kind of like, you get it all, integration, transparency, framework, fill in the gaps exercise using those words. And then you have the answers, Siemens business context, okay, interaction. Okay, and you can just copy the entire response, put it into, that's a different one, into your Siemens thing. You know, as you can see, I've done this quite a number of times. Normally I just use it for just like the words from the previous week. So the words from the previous week were not from the previous week now, but in the past were Annoy, Vital, that was sort of 2 weeks ago. And then in last week's class, I gave them that fill in the gaps exercise, which shows answer keys. And that was provided by ChatGPT. And in that case, in that instruction, I said, first give examples of those words and sentences for Martin, who is a design engineer, Ronald, who's the head of the mechanical test lab, and Alex, who is actually a prototype tester. That was you. Okay, anyway, so let's see. So basically I'm doing the same class. Wow. Okay, so, and it's the 6th of July. It's a good idea, just for reference's sake, just to put down the 6th of July on top of the page so that I don't get mixed up. Okay. Below is your crystal transformation in 4, so 6th July. Excuse me. Okay, so then I basically have a version at an easier level, presumably, than the original article. Sometimes it's not that far off, and sometimes a lot of the articles are actually kind of not that difficult anyway. But what I tend to do is rather than just, or what I can do sometimes, is rather than just translating the word for them, I just give it to them at their level. So then I can cross over like that. And so rewrites AI are no longer only science fiction, are no longer confined to the domain of science fiction. Okay. Context wise, they'll probably get it. So there could be some words some expressions which are difficult. And this is actually this is an interesting article actually, because it talks about how people mistakenly confuse an AI robot with a friend, especially vulnerable people. And for example, the new research underscores how being caught in an echo chamber with a sycophantic tool can potentially spell disaster for the most vulnerable. Some people in my class are not going to get that. So, so the problem may be, this is the corresponding sentence, that chatbots always agree with users and create echo chambers, which can be dangerous for vulnerable people. Much easier to understand. Okay. So you can kind of cross back and forth. It's maybe a little bit ambitious actually when I think about it, but fuck it. Okay, and so the other points, which just want to look at that, useful business words. So beforehand, these words are going to come up. So I'm going to ask them what's interaction. That's the meaning. Siemens use human-machine interaction, user interfaces, automation. That I can make questions, just on the cusp of or ad lib during the class about where like interaction. Do you work with any AI user interfaces? Do you have automated systems? I mean, these are questions I almost don't want to ask actually in some cases, because you've got people like Lars who'll give you like a 15-minute answer on automation systems. Dependence, vulnerable. Okay. User. Yeah. Okay. I think I'll probably not use those words so much in terms of Siemens context. Okay. Maybe perspective, like point of view. What's your perspective on this? What's your perspective on that? This could be used as a guideline, but I'm not going to go down in any great detail to get those words. Development, mitigate, deployment. Okay, deployment actually put the system into use. Yeah, okay, to deploy. Okay, and then you've got to fill in the gaps exercise. Using those words again. Why does it have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? That's 3. What's that about? Why did I just put use just one? Okay. Maybe just to break it up, but it doesn't, not necessary. Okay, Mr. ChatGPT, but ask the next time. Okay, so, and then you got the answer key, which is probably not necessary. Okay, so getting them to use those words, and I do that then, and then read the article, and that's going to take up quite a bit of time already. So that's going to take up the bones of 60 minutes, I'd say. And then I found this kind of slightly cool kind of thing. This is the agony aunt, one of the agony aunts actually, of The Guardian. So I don't fucking want you. Okay, so I get them to choose a question. Another 5 to 10 minutes. Now these questions are more like this would be with this class, the Siemens engineering class, this is kind of the first tech lesson that I'll be doing, because they are very technical. So like one of the classes that we did was how the Chinese are using like tricks about how to make a desert into a fertile land, and how they're doing that in China, and they're now kind of amassing their collating their information in order to do it on the moon. You know, some of those some one exercise. But anyway, here's some questions. Um, Maybe I'll choose it for them rather than giving them the choice. What about this? With the advance of AI, I feel my work as an artist is no longer respected. Should I just give up? Could be, could be. Okay. What I like to do is I like to give them a choice, or rather the illusion of choice. So if I go to, say, page 3, and if I go there, Helen Garner and Dua Lipa's interview caused a personal crisis. How can I be quietly intelligent? Jesus Christ, these questions are in no way friggin' applicable to a group of fucking middle-aged Siemens managers. And it's just they won't even know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So I thought after the AI article, choosing one of these and maybe putting that question into AI just to see what AI would say. And let's say, I want sex more often than my husband does. What can we do? And that's probably something that they'll probably all choose, because they're all guys more or less. My mother left my husband, another who wants to start us including us. Okay. A bit ambitious, I would say, actually. Might scrap that, actually. I might scrap that idea and choose something else. So then I would go back to to not Siemens pages, no, to not that either. For fuck's sake. I'll probably go for something more grammatical, and from previous exercises from previous weeks. Sorry for all the rambling, by the way. I'm just doing that as just rambling. Okay. Oh yeah, describing trends was going to come up actually. Use must and mustn't. Did that or didn't we? Go do and make. Okay, we haven't done that. So there's a couple of things here I can do it from. It's no problem. No real problem, actually. Products, blue voltage. Okay, this is from their own website. Let me just have a quick look at that. Open link. Maybe get some ideas from that. What this? And that sounds okay as well. Talk about trends. I didn't really do that properly with them, so I can clear that. Clear activity input. Okay, so, but basically, I can't really remember. I already prepared a class, kind of did a video where I prepared for a class for you. So what I'll do now is go to the general sources of information. So bookmarks, as I showed you, core books. So I can right click on that and all those come up at the same time. And these are the ones that I'm going to use in more or less every class. So you've got like my calendar, my working calendar. Then you've got DeepL, which does a big translate. Here's DeepL actually. It's pretty good. So you can translate one thing to the other. If you wanted to digest large chunks of information in a short time. Temporary bookmarks. Okay, not sure. My Goat is more private stuff, personal stuff. By the way, check out read comics. I don't know, you a comic guy? I think we said, did I have a comic thing going on with you? 1millioncomics.com. You can read all the comics here. Not secure. Not coming up. Alex, every time I want to show you something, things start going wrong. Okay, anyway. So stats, I showed it to you already, more or less, didn't I? Some other interesting stuff there. Visual Capitalist is pretty good. And again, it's like, what are you interested in? Technology. Okay, let's go there. And let's just choose something of interest to you. Least the most expensive internet. So that stuff is always useful just to flick to create conversation with, because they're usually interested. Turkey is the least expensive. The most expensive is Wallis and Futuna. I don't even know what that is. Okay, that's a remote island. Steep infrastructure costs. Okay, $375 per fucking month. Okay, Turkmenistan. And, And then they want to see where Germany is, and then they want to give out about Germany. Germany is not cheap, actually. And Germany's internet system is not that great. Pakistan, great reason to move to Pakistan. Okay, click on that, what happens? Nothing. Come on, okay, there's another one. Okay, but anyway. And so visuals are always good to create conversation with. I'll actually keep that on, I might refer to that later. But I want to actually look at something relating to grammar with them as well, something more perfunctory. Okay, yeah, that's another thing that you can do. If you want to kind of like, from the original article, what are the most relevant to an A2B1 English learning class. English learning class. What are the most relevant grammar points? What are grammar points for an learning class? Okay. The pill must be looked actually as present perfect. I have spent the last years being present. I feel about the fuck is this mean? Your writing is actually quite advanced, but indeed inside your beautiful prose at the exact. It's going to need to just we need to master. What the fuck are they talking about? You think it's my writing, or it's trying to make it's trying to make contact with me? Okay. So yeah, the second conditional might be a good one. Okay, because there are examples of it from the text. Okay, so I could just take that, express the application. Have to, need to, that did actually come up. Okay, anyway, I'm going to cut off and you get the idea. Okay. Okay, maybe it's a bit slapdash actually, the two videos. You know, I didn't think in advance about them, and I actually made another video which was actually very good. I went through everything in it and then pressed the wrong button, didn't save it. Okay, take care. All the best, mate.